Hey guys!
Welcome to the adventures.
So today we're going to answer some of the questions that you've been asking. Like,
how did we get our CDLs? How long have we been driving? Those kind of things. So we'll just break it down one by one. So, how long have you been driving?
before I had my license.
Okay, well, when did you get your CDLs?
I don't want to tell. I can't tell.
This
no
is a
people
real
my
honest.
age.
He's a little bit worried y'all might think he's kind of getting old, okay?
I started driving a dump truck in 1989.
And if you're wondering, I was born in 1985. Anyways, moving on. So, but back then there wasn't really a CDLs. It was called a
Chauffeur's license, and I was driving a dump truck and hauling around a backhoe and dozer without that. Shh, don't tell nobody.
Renegade. He's a renegade, guys.
So when the chauffeur's license transferred to the CDL, I grandfathered in from a chauffeur's license that I didn't have into a CDL. Don't ask me how I pulled it off.
He got lucky.
He got lucky. I went and did all the testing. I passed all the tests. Took everything I could possibly take except, I think at the time was a public passenger endorsement. So yeah, I've got everything. Tankers, doubles, triples, hazmat, air brake, everything I could possibly take, except I don't want to haul people around because
you don't like people, remember?
How can a preacher not like people?
Well, you just find them difficult. God's working on you, honey.
Yeah.
That's how. Yeah.
Okay, so how about you?
But then shortly after, you bounced around a little bit, but then you went to a company that was called CCX, which then went to Conway Freight, which is now XPO.
Yeah.
And so that's where he really started his like regular like trucking, pulling doubles, triples.
So
career.
most of all my early career, I was worked for a company. The first driving job I had was Central Indiana Cartage, which was pickup and delivery, basically. Some line haul. I would go from Indianapolis up to South Bend, or Indianapolis to Fort Wayne, South Bend and back. And then once I started at CCX, it was pretty much the same thing. Pickup, delivery, work the dock, line haul. So I'd never really spent a night away from home the first 20 plus years of my career.
And you started there in like
96.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. And so for me, by then they had a lot more rules, okay? I'll just say. And you had to be 21 to get your CDLs to work for any of the big carriers. I mean, you can get it at 18, but you have to stay in state. And where I was from, like, that was very difficult to do because I live on, like, the little tiny skinny part of Maryland where it's only, like, 15 miles or so. And
11.
Yeah, 11 miles in the state. So, like, it would be very difficult to get it much younger than what I did. So, at 22, I got my CDLs at the same company he was working for in a different state. So, he was in Indiana. I was in Maryland. They had a trucking school. And I had wanted to be a graphic designer, an artist. And I did that for 3 years. And I got falsely fired. And really was still, like, new in the industry as a profession, and I would have had to move to like DC to make any money, and I was like, well, like that's not happening, number one, and number two, I'm moving out of my mama's house. Like, we need to get life going. And so I at the time was dating a guy that was working, and he had gotten his CDLs that way, and I thought, well, if this dude can do it, what did I say, if this dude can do it, so can I. Like, and he also told me like I was not to ever become a truck driver because I would get too much attention. So that was kind of like challenge accepted. And
game on.
Yeah, we were broke up by then. I was single. I was like, you're not going to control me, dictate my life anymore. And so I went to their trucking school, and that's where I got my CDL. And then 6 months later, so that was in April, 6 months later, because it took 3 months to get it, I've been driving for 3 months. I still barely, like, I was just really getting to it. Like, and the company went through the economy crash in 2008. And so that's when I moved to Indiana.
So they restructured their line haul system. So the Hagerstown terminal lost runs. The Plainfield, Indiana terminal I was working at gained runs. So she had the opportunity to pick from Joplin, Missouri, Indianapolis.
I could go to like California, Richmond, Virginia. But you have to remember, just like most people never notice this, but unless you're an owner operator, but different regions and parts of the country equal different pay rate. So 3 of the different areas that I could choose from were a lower pay grade. So I was going to be like
$2 an hour lower.
Yeah, I was going to be moving out of my mama's house, moving away from my mama, like, and having to support myself fully for the first time. So I was like, there's no way I can take like a pay cut, like $2 an hour. So that really limited it down to like a small handful of places. And my family is just really close knit. And so, I didn't really want to move further that I couldn't like come home for Christmas, like in a 3-day weekend. Cause I knew we were going to get like a possibility of like 3-day weekends, 4 times a year. And so I knew I would get to go home like at least 4 times that year, plus my vacation time, and be able to drive it and not be too taxing on me. And so that's what, and of course I like prayed about it, but I only had 1 week to make this decision. Like 1 week I got told, and the next week my decision had to be made, and the next week I had to move. And so I showed up and I was super, super sick. Some of you have followed my health journey and things like that, but I have really bad autoimmune problems, and I get sick like really easily and a lot. And when I showed up there, the stress of all of that, my immune system just crashed. I had pink eye, strep throat, and bronchitis. And I still had to report to work, or I was going to have to pay back the company the money.
She had pink hair too. Her hair was pink.
I had a pink highlight in my hair. He doesn't remember correctly.
I do, yeah.
And
how could I never forget seeing this beautiful face for the first time?
I know. And so, I mean, just imagine, like, by this time I was just barely 23 years old, like, moving on and moving out and, just really trying to find my ways. And I was super sick. Cell phones were still, like, a new thing. GPSs weren't hardly a thing. Like, the paper map was still a thing. So trying to find, like, the closest hospital to a brand new city that I moved to was, like, going to be difficult. So I was just, like, I knew what I needed. And so I just picked the least threatening person and the most nicest person. It was Scott, and the rest was history on like how we became a couple. And then we just
let's back up here a little bit, because they posted on the board that the people that were coming to the terminal, and me and this other guy were like, Angela, really? What is this going to be, like a 300-pounder? Sorry, it was.
They thought I did not have much hope for my life.
We didn't. Yeah, me and him were kind of joking that what kind of person would transfer, 500 miles away from home
and guys, I was tinier then than I am now. I'll just say, like.
Shame on me, I know, but I was so wrong.
But shortly, like, we just developed like a great friendship. Like, Indianapolis is honestly like a really dangerous city. I'm a really small country bumpkin, guys. Like, I know that comes across. Like, I know you can tell I'm a country bumpkin that lives on the mountain and lives under a rock. Like, nothing's changed. Like, always been that. Like, I'm less that now. But
so I asked the question, where are you moving to? She said Westlake. I said, Westlake?
The ghetto. Sign me up.
Well, it's a very, very rough neighborhood. I had a buddy who was a command sergeant major in the Indiana National Guard. And he was like, no, I cannot live here. So I told her. And
he worked there too.
That's probably not really a good place for you to move to.
So there was another female driver there. I moved in with her until I found an acceptable place. But then Scott and I started dating. And 1 year and 2 months later, they redistricted the company again. And we had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to move back to Maryland, or I could move back to Maryland and he could move there. We could both transfer. So we transferred back to the Hagerstown hub, and then we were there for.
Well, we were about this far for me, because if you sign up for the transfer, then you have to take it.
Or pay the company big money.
She had gone through a surgery for endometriosis, exploratory, seeing what was going on.
Yeah, laparoscopic surgery.
Lots of belly troubles, and.
I was so
she was on light duty, and they said, well, you can't transfer if you're on light duty. So it was almost, I was going to have to transfer to Maryland to keep my position, and she almost had to stay in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
That was a really scary moment.
Yeah, and so, you guys, I am from the road of, like, hard knocks, and, like, it wasn't easy in my early career, and so I literally had to beg my doctor to release me 3 weeks early from after having a pretty major surgery. Like nowadays, if you have the surgery, you're off for like 4 to 6 weeks. And so I begged the doctor to release me, and I went back to work, and my body was still in shock. I was throwing up and driving the truck, and I had to drive to St. Louis, Missouri. And if I didn't arrive at St. Louis, Missouri, then I wasn't accepted as me completing my work assignment. And so I got there, but by the time I got there, my body was in such shock that they had to drive me back, and I had to abandon the truck in St. Louis. It was crazy. Actually, some of the things that I've experienced in trucking, because again, being a female, early in, it, especially being a young, small, attractive female, I really had a really big bullseye on my back, and I really had to go through the ropes of hard knocks. There definitely was never any favoritism played towards me. I had everything 100% against me. They gave me stuff, work assignments, knowing that it was going to be difficult for a grown big dude to do, and that it was going to be near impossible for me to do, but I refused to quit. I refused to give in. It would have to daggone near kill me before I would quit. I just was ruthless. And he didn't always like it, but I was I met you as a truck driver. I want to be a truck driver. And so he just respects that. That's what I want to do. And so once we moved to Hagerstown now, then we started competing in truck rodeos. And so he had already done that kind of stuff. And so truck rodeos, we have an old video. I'll tag it about truck rodeos, but it's trucking competitions.
Fun, fun, fun. If you get the opportunity, take it.
Yeah, it really is some of the most elite truckers in the nation. It is really, really cool.
They're really just good cheaters.
No, they're really... You have to know a rodeo. So if you know what he's talking about, comment below. Have you competed in a rodeo? Let us know. But so we started doing rodeos. I actually got 3rd place in the state of Maryland. He got 1st place. So for our honeymoon, this is how much trucker nerds we are. For our honeymoon, we went to the Maryland State Truck Driving Competition. Mm-hmm. And he got 1st place. He went to the nationals, got 8th place in that division. So he went up against 50 other drivers and came out with 8th place.
So they take your individual classes, if you're a 5-axle, which would be a 2-axle day cab tractor with a 53-foot trailer, and they'll divide you up in these what they call bullpens. And the lady that you have a den mother, and she asked me, she's like, "Are you nervous?" I'm like, "Heck no! I just got married 2 days ago."
Yeah. So
this ain't nothing.
Yeah. Because my parents done warned him that I'm a hot mess and a lot to handle.
Her dad said no give backs.
So he was a bit worried.
Sorry.
But no, and then that following year, so then 2011 I think it was, and he also got Pennsylvania driver of the month of April. And so there are 13 drivers for each state that represent driver of the month and driver of the year. And so he was 1 out of 13 of the entire state that received that award that year. And so with that being said, we did that. He had quit after a few years later, 2015? 14. He quit. He was done with trucking. He felt well, I made it to the top almost. I'm done. Let's end on a good note. And so, and it just so happened right after he had decided to quit, he was going to open up his own lawn care business and do all that kind of stuff. Work for his brother-in-law, doing cell phone tower work, and just kind of do whatever. But God had different plans. His mom and my mom were both diagnosed with cancer. And so he became their caretakers. He was able to love his mom for 7 weeks until God called her home. And then he was able to be there with my mom and take her down to the city and take her to all of her critical appointments. Yeah. And so it was really a blessing. And then pretty much after that season was wrapping up, because I was a couple years of that season, and during that season, then I came home. And by this point, we were already paying off our debt. So we had paid off of all of our consumer debt. We just still had a mortgage, and we weren't making any traction on our mortgage. And I found about the opportunity in 2018 with FedEx Ground about being husband and wife team drivers and what we could do if we linked together. And like I really prayed about it before I ever even talked to him, and you know, about like what the Bible says about being equally yoked and pulling together and all of that. And so I just went ahead and made the phone call, and got some information, ran the facts, came home at dinner, and I was like, babes, we can pay off our house and have 6 months worth of income saved up.
That
in
conversation,
18 months.
That conversation went something like, hey, baby, I figured out how we can pay off our house. I'm like, oh, yeah, how? I'm not going to mail prostitute. But she
I was
said,
like, in 18 months, plus have 6 months savings. And he's like...
And she's like, you'd have to go back to driving. And I was like, oh, fudge. You know?
And so we did it in 18 months. And then we took off the summer and we started the food truck and amped up the lawn care business. And so for 4 or 5 summers, I guess 5 summers, we did that.
Probably 4, yeah. I think 4.
Yeah. And then 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, we got the amazing opportunity to sell our current home that was paid off and buy what we consider is our dream property. It is a log cabin on top of the mountain, surrounded in the woods, on almost 8 acres, very, very secluded, very remote, like...
Very under market value.
Very under market value. So about, at the time when we bought it, about $200,000 under market value.
Yeah.
And so we took it. And then we waited another year, and we really did not like having a mortgage. And this time we still had a great... a great relationship with our boss, and so, you know, we would still drive when he needed, drive in the wintertime and stuff like that. And so we just really prayed about it that summer, and we decided to sell our food truck, sell our lawn care business, and come back on the road full time. And so coming up in May, that will have been 2 years that we went back on the road full time.
2.5. We went back to work for 4 months, 5 months. I forgot. We thought the grass was greener on the other side, and we were wrongly mistaken. We went to another contractor, and yeah, it took us 4 months to recognize the grass was not greener. Guys, sometimes you just got to water the grass that you're standing on, and it can get a little better. There was some funny business going on.
Yeah, we did not want to be a part of that. That's all we're gonna leave that at that. We just knew we needed to sail back out of there, and so we came back to our boss. He gave us this brand new truck that was a 2024. It's been a Livin. Y'all know that story. But now we are about 15 months away from paying off our mortgage. And so what we decided to do first, though, was to renovate our house and then pay off our mortgage. And so, but with that, along the way, we started a YouTube channel. We've been coaching people. We've been sharpening our skills. And now, fast forward, we never tracked our miles because we never thought that we were going to be doing this as long as we have and as much as we have. So we honestly don't know how many miles. Like, all I can tell you is that we got this truck in May of 23, and it has 370,000 miles on it. And so, but we know we've driven other trucks, so we're 400,000 miles in less than 2 years.
Yeah, and it was in the shop for months and months and months.
And so we know as a team, we've been teaming for 8 years now, and we have figured out so many things. We're really in our groove, in our niche. We're like knocking it out, like you know, we're really excited. And so we've learned a lot of things, and we just want to continue to share them with you. And now I've been driving in a couple months. It'll be 17 years of driving, and we've been driving
longer than that.
So we have over 45 years worth of experience with excellent careers, excellent resume, and really humbly driving and not being full of ourselves with the abilities. We put in the hard work to maintain this. Like, we do our due diligence to make sure our career continues to stay safe.
As much as I dislike driving, we could not be in a easier cush position. I mean, we may have to drive 7.5 hours a day, 3 days a week, and then the other maybe 9, 2 days, 9. It's a really easy run outside of, you know, the DC traffic and whatnot, but driving can be whatever you want it to be. If you want to do P&D, there's always P&D positions available. If you want to do line haul and be home every night, they're out there. All you have to do is look for them. It's just a matter of what you decide what you want to do with trucking.
Yeah, and what trucking can do for you.
Or don't let trucking do to you.
That's very true. And I will wrap it up on that advice. Like, the biggest advice I've gotten in my life, and I think it was, right when I got my CDLs, and it was always stay humble. No matter how good of a driver you get, stay humble. And that's often why we don't talk about our resume and what our career has been like, is because we don't want to come across as boasting or bragging about our excellent careers and things like that. So the first advice was always stay humble and don't let the industry eat you.
Yeah.
Because if you let it, like,
it's a hungry monster.
It will consume you. Like, it is difficult, guys. And so that's like the best advice I've ever given, and it applies for like everything in life.
Keep you a fur baby that shows you lots of love too.
Yeah.
Is really forgiving. Her is a good girl.
She is a good girl. But you guys, I hope that gives you a little bit more insight. So many of you have asked about our story, how we met, like a lot of information. So I know this is a longer video, but I hope it was encouraging. I hope you've enjoyed it. And we're gonna just start now unpacking, deep diving into what we've done in our truck to make it a home, to have the success that we've had for all of this time. All right, guys, until next time, stay safe and enjoy the adventure.
Bye.